The Mavericks are back in the Big Easy, looking to avenge their controversial loss from just 2 weeks ago. We'll preview tonight's game coming up next on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys cover your favorite team every single game night. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you're here as well, and do for the same for our podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free. It's game night for your Dallas Mavericks as they look for their second straight win. They begin a 5-game road trip tonight in the Big Easy as they take on Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll get you ready for tonight's game over the course of the next half hour. I already see you, Luke, in the chat. Also see you, Ronald, as well. Soren, happy to be here as well with us here on the pregame show as the Mavericks looking to get this road trip started off on the right foot, and also looking to avenge a controversial loss just 2 weeks ago in New Orleans, Tim Cato, as the Mavericks playing game number 48 of the season at 25-22, 11-12 away from the American Airlines Center, taking on a Pelicans team that's 12-35 on the year, 8-16 at home. Mavs at a 1.5 favorite tonight with the over-under at 233.5. Game time at 7 p.m. If you're going to be watching the game, you can watch it on KFAA channel 20, WFAA channel 8 and KFAA channel 29. Mavericks looking to get the second straight win, Tim Cato, and begin a crucial 5-game road trip as the calendar gets ready to turn from January to February.
They should start this game by very blatantly goaltending the first shot that the Pelicans take. Like shoot a three and the guy jumps up like it's like they're swatting it away, just to see what the refs do. They should just make sure that goaltending is still a thing, because maybe the NBA just turned it off in New Orleans. Maybe all Dallas needs to do, maybe they have discovered a hack. I just think it's worth trying.
I don't want to give up 2 free points, because we know how that went the last time when they didn't give the 2 points that was supposed to be given to Spencer Dinwiddie. It resulted in a controversial loss as Trey Murphy, quote-unquote, blocked Stephen Jones, Spencer Dinwiddie's layup that allowed the Pelicans to preserve a 119-116 win. Good to see Ben Silheim back in the chat as well. He says, I've been sick all week, spent most of it sleeping. Well, welcome back. Much like Najee Marshall is back tonight for your Dallas Mavericks as well. He had been dealing with some illness on his own. Not sure what he had, but glad he is back, as he will be on a 15-minute restriction tonight, Jason Kidd saying prior to tonight's game. So the knife, Mark Stein, is back for the Dallas Mavericks. That gets us set up for how these two teams come into tonight's game. Let's start with your Dallas Mavericks, of course, 9th in the West, sitting a game and a half behind the Clippers for the 6th seed in the Western Conference. 4-6 in their last 10 are your Mavericks, but they are 3-3 since that meeting just 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Mavericks, though, just 1-6 in their last 7 road games. So with a 5-game road trip now beginning for them tonight, got to find a way to get it done a little bit on the road, better than what they've done over the last 7 games. As we mentioned, beginning that 5-game road trip tonight, which will continue, I should say, on Friday when they visit Tim Hardaway Jr. and the Detroit Pistons. Dallas, though, so far this year, Tim, 13-4 against teams below 500, so beating up on the bad teams overall. 18-17 against the Western Conference. Let's focus in on the Pelicans, who, of course, 14th in the West, just a game behind the Jazz for the worst record in all of the Western Conference. Currently on a 3-game losing streak themselves, losing their last 3 games by an average of nearly 18 points in those 3 games. But they are 5-5 in their last 10 overall. And against the West this year, just 6-20 so far against the rest of the Western Conference. Also an abysmal 4-25 this year against teams above 500. So not beating the West and not beating good teams at all so far this year are the Pelicans. They'll play at home tonight, and then they'll play at home again on Friday when they welcome in the reigning NBA champion Boston Celtics. They'll begin a 4-game road trip themselves on Monday when they visit Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. That gets you an outlook on how both teams look coming into tonight's game, which gets us to Tim Cato's, not Bobby Carella's, scouting report tonight. And Tim, tonight, it's all about a guy who didn't play in the last matchup 2 weeks ago, but is definitely playing tonight in the form of Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I think Zion is the obvious focus now that he's back. He will be playing tonight. He's been on a bit of a minutes restriction. Hasn't been playing more than 30 minutes in any game since he returned a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something around there. Mm-hmm. And the Pelicans are just a different team with him on the court. Now, what's interesting, what's funny, is they are not a good team with Zion Williamson on the court, but they are at least not an abysmal team. They are about bang average. They're competent. They play competent offense, competent defense when Zion's out there. He's played 342 minutes this season, and the Pelicans are minus 21 in the totality of those minutes. So again, that's competent. That's far better than the team has been. Mm-hmm. And granted, a lot of this is just that, these stretches they've gone through without Zion, they've also gone through without a bunch of other starters. They're healthier at this point, even if players like Herb Jones is still obviously not playing for them. What I think is interesting about Zion is how he has changed slightly than the player that you might have remembered coming into the league. He is still a pure paint scorer, a volume paint scorer. That is where he gets his buckets. But he's not quite as explosive at the rim this season. He shoots most of his shots just outside the restricted area. About 45% of his shots are in that 3 to 10 foot range. And then, so 45% shots are there. He's still taking 52% of his shots at the rim. But to put that in context of who Zion Williamson was when he came into the league, just how scary he was. As a rookie, 87% of his shots came at the rim. Basically, he was like if Daniel Gafford was a number one option for a team and could initiate from far outside, from the three-point line and in. He was so scary. And I still think he's a good player. I think some of this adaptation is just a natural evolution to his game.
Sure.
Zion also draws fouls a lot, on about 23% of his possessions. It's not quite Omax. Obviously, he's doing his best to follow in Omax's
He's no
footsteps.
Omax.
But, that is a very high percent, for 1 out of every 5 possessions that ends with you to be a shooting foul. So either a shot attempt or a turnover or a foul drawn. About, of those possessions, about 1 in every 5 is a shooting foul. That's a really good percentage. So Daniel Gafford, do not foul. Daniel Gafford, do not foul Zion Williamson. Do not give him cheap fouls. You're going to foul him. He is so big and athletic, just a bowling ball down there, that you're going to give some up. But it wouldn't shock me if Kyler Kelly, who was not in the rotation, was not planned to be in the rotation in the Mavericks last game against Washington, it wouldn't shock me if he got 4 or 6 minutes in the first half just to see how he looks and potentially just be a foul sponge. I think Daniel Gafford, it's not going to be possible for him to, go this entire game without picking up 3 or 4, just to put another big body out there. I think that's conceivable for a game like this. That said, I'm pretty sure PJ Washington's going to be the guy who starts on Zion. And we think back to the Mavericks playing Zion in the past, and it's crazy how few games Zion has actually played against the Mavericks. Like even in seasons where Zion has been healthy, feels like his unhealthy stretches have come when Dallas has been playing New Orleans. But we remember Maxey. Being the Zion stopper. And I think PJ kind of makes sense in that role. I don't love PJ, or he can struggle at times when he's a point of attack defender on guards, on people starting at the 3-point line. He has to account for step backs, pull ups, all this stuff. That's not PJ's best role. I do kind of like the idea of PJ against Zion because he doesn't have to start his defensive stance. He doesn't have to start defending him at the 3-point line, or doesn't have to account for all the 3-point, the sidestep movement. I'm not sure that PJ is quite as fleet of foot as Maxey was back a few years ago when he was healthier, younger, and just an extremely good switch big. But I do like PJ, basically, sagging off, starting his defensive stance at the 16 or 17 feet area, and basically having a little bit of runway to absorb whatever Zion's trying to do.
Yeah.
Just gives him a little bit more room to bang with him, to and to deal with him. I do think that's the likeliest outcome. Zion, he's been playing kind of like he's basically their point guard.
Yeah, that point forward position.
Yeah. Averaging, I think you said it, something like 5 assists,
nearly 5 assists per contest.
This season. So he absolutely he's going to get a different, he's going to get a share of defenders. I'm sure Jason Kidd's going to send some doubles at him. I think it starts with PJ, but Daniel Gafford's going to have to sub in. And yeah, if you see some early fouls, especially then, maybe Kyler Kelly isn't in the plan right away, but I would imagine he's a foul contingency that the Dallas is planning for in the scenario where PJ Washington or Daniel Gafford pick up, maybe they both pick up like 3 combined fouls in the first quarter.
Sure.
Maybe it's a situation where you just see another big body thrown out there to try to account for that. So that's what I'm thinking in terms of how Dallas is going to go about guarding Zion Williamson. I'm kind of excited to see it,
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just like we've seen him play against Dallas so infrequently, and he is such a unique one-of-one player that I hope can stay healthy, that I hope can be a star in this league, because he's fun. He's fun to watch. But that's what Dallas needs to watch, and just understand that, even though he's not as not as terrifying as an athlete as he was early in the year, he's not going to be within 3 feet of the rim every time. He can still get points and score buckets in that, in the paint. That's still his calling card.
Yeah, and Zion Williamson, the athleticism gets turned up when he is on the floor for the Pelicans, especially when he's able to get out and transition and make some things happen there. Mavericks got to be mindful of their foul situation, dealing with a guy that's as good as Zion Williamson. Let's get to the lead story for the Mavericks tonight. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Mavericks playing the Pelicans exactly 2 weeks ago when Dallas lost on that controversial Trey Murphy the third block, which was a clear goaltend that, of course, unfortunately led to the Mavericks losing that game at 119 to 116. It would have given Spencer Dinwiddie the go-ahead bucket with 3 seconds left in that game, but instead it was the Mavericks' third straight loss. Dallas looking for a no-doubt win tonight. That mindset, I feel like, should be what the Mavericks go into. Leave no doubt tonight in New Orleans, even with Zion Williamson back, and be able to play the kind of game that doesn't put it in the officiating officials' hands to have to make a call or not make a call, the way, unfortunately, it went down for them just exactly 2 weeks ago in New Orleans. Tim started to mention offensively, the Pelicans are going to be led by Zion Williamson. He didn't play in the last matchup against Dallas, but so far this year in 12 games, averaging over 23 points per game, over 8 rebounds per contest, and nearly 5 assists per game as well. He had 31 points in their loss to Toronto the other night. CJ McCollum's been playing really well as of late as well on the season, averaging over 22 points per game, shooting 37% from 3. DeJounte Murray, who's banged up a little bit coming into tonight's game, he's going to be available so far this year, averaging over 17 points per game while dishing out over 7 assists per contest, nearly 8 assists per contest so far for them this year. Defensively, they'll be led by the rookie out of Baylor, Tanner Yves Missi, who, of course, is averaging 8 rebounds per contest and 1.5 blocks so far this year in 44 games for the rookie. Offensively, of course, the Mavericks going to be led by Kyrie Irving, who continues to play through that bulging disc in his back. He's averaging over 24 points per game, shooting 48% from the field. PJ Washington, who had 14 and 14 the last time these two teams played together just 2 weeks ago, he's averaging 14 points per game and a career-high 8.1 rebounds per contest. Daniel Gafford, the man in the middle, leading this team, averaging nearly 2 blocks per contest this year at 1.7 and nearly 7 rebounds per game as well. A Pelicans team that is not very good in a lot of statistical categories going into tonight's game, where they are 5th worst in offensive rating, 3rd worst in defensive rating, which gives them the 2nd worst overall net rating in the league. A team that doesn't shoot the ball very well from the field or from 3 and doesn't rebound the ball necessarily well either. 7th worst in the association as far as rebounds per game are concerned. Hopefully that's good things for a guy like Daniel Gafford, who can hopefully clean up on the boards. Had 12 boards in the road game against him just 2 weeks ago. The Mavericks and Pelicans playing each other for what is the 3rd time this season, the final time in New Orleans for them this year, with the season series tied at 1 game apiece. We mentioned the game that was played just 2 weeks ago. The Mavericks won the first matchup back on November 19th in Dallas in what was a 132-91 beat 'em down at the American Airlines Center. These two teams will meet each other for the final time on February 21st in Dallas. So far, in the last 20 games, The Mavericks 13-7 in their last 20 matchups against the New Orleans Pelicans. Hopefully for the Mavericks tonight, it's an opportunity for them to get off to a quick start and be able to put away a Pelicans team that, yes, does have Zion Williamson back, but necessarily hasn't been great throughout the course of the season. More on tonight's game with the X Factors, our Mavericks Player Spotlight, and who is in and who is out for tonight's game as well, Najee Marshall. And we'll get all that for you coming up here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. But first, yes, Bobby is not here. He is still away on business, but he had some time, though, to drop in his sleeper picks for tonight's game. He's got Zion Williamson scoring more than 23.5 points. Trey Murphy, don't like that name, but Trey Murphy for more than 2.5 3-pointers made. Kyrie Irving for more than 20 points, which will give him a 3.02 multiplier. So $5 will net my man $15.10. Of course, putting your ball now to the test. Bobby does it well, and he does it with Sleeper by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players have more or less in their projected stats each week. With the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. You can now get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest, and you can apply it to any contest as well, and it doesn't have to be your first one. So remember, terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Play $5, get $55 in free entry. So make sure you check out Sleeper and try to be a winner like our man Bobby Krell tonight when the Mavericks take on the Pelicans. Mavericks visiting New Orleans for the second time in 2 weeks, looking to get a win. We mentioned it. They're on a 5-game road trip beginning tonight. They'll visit the Detroit Pistons on Friday, as this road trip will continue, especially on the East Coast. Let's get you the injury report for tonight's game. Who's in, who's out for both teams. Let's start with the home team in the New Orleans Pelicans. Jordan Hawkins, he's out with non-COVID illness. Brandon Ingram, he is out with a left ankle sprain. Herb Jones, he's going to be out again with the right shoulder strain. We mentioned a little bit earlier, DeJounte Murray, he's been banged up, but he is available. He's dealing with a right elbow and right finger injury, but DeJounte Murray will be good to go.
Good news for the Mavericks.
That's good news for the Mavericks that DeJounte Murray is available. Why do you say that?
I don't think it really helps their team.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Next time, say it with your chest, man. He doesn't help their team, damn it. Which means they'll probably go off for like 30 and 10 assists tonight, but we'll see.
It might be a losing 30 and 10.
Exactly.
Losing basketball 30 and 10.
A losing 30 and 10.
I'm not a DeJounte guy. Not like I have. I don't know, man.
Well, he came from Atlanta, and you know how much Atlanta bothers my spirit to begin with as a team, as an organization. It's been mixed results for DeJounte so far.
He's just an inefficient lead guard who doesn't defend like he used to.
That's the thing. When he was with San Antonio, he was a hell of a defensive player, and I think that was some of his calling card when he was there. But
a little overrated, I think, in San Antonio defensively, but certainly like even the effort has dissipated as he really broke through. And we've seen it before, like defensive role players, all of a sudden they become 20-point scorers, and it fades a little bit. But yeah,
they all don't become Kawhi Leonard.
Not my favorite player to watch. Not gonna lie.
Okay, Tim's gonna be watching tonight to see who has a bad game or not. Let's go to the Mavericks in terms of their injury report. Luka Doncic, he remains out with the left calf strain. Derek Lively out with the right ankle stress fracture. Maxi Kleber, of course, out with the right foot fracture. Dwight Powell remains out with the right hip strain that he is dealing with. Dante Exum, he is out tonight, but was listed as doubtful coming into tonight's game for the very first time this season. Hopefully he is going to be making his return soon. He is on the road trip, so we could see the debut of Dante Exum within the next 2 or 3 games on this road trip. So Dante Exum getting that much closer to his return. Jason Kidd saying pregame that he is feeling good and that his wrist is feeling good as well. So there is hope that Dante Exum is on his way back very, very soon.
I would like to watch Dante Exum play basketball again.
Same.
Should I say that with my chest? Yes. I would like to watch Dante Exum play basketball again.
I like that. That's good.
There.
I like that.
There. That one I feel very strongly
about. You felt good about that one?
Yeah. So was that tonally correct?
I like that. That was good.
Was the volume better there?
The volume was good. The inflection.
I just think it's fun to watch him play basketball. Let's do it.
And Mavericks fans feel the same way because they're ready to see him back on the floor as well. Someone who is on the floor tonight, who hasn't been on the floor the last few games, Najee Marshall is back. Of course, he had been dealing with whatever illness that he has been dealing with once again, but he's going to be on a 15-minute restriction tonight. But good to see him back on the floor, hopefully for a good stretch of time this time around going forward as the Mavericks get ready to turn the calendar from January to February and move toward the All-Star break. That gets us to our Mavericks Player Spotlight on tonight, and let's focus in, Tim, on the big man in the middle once again. And, of course, that is Daniel Gafford for your Dallas Mavericks. He's dominated the Pelicans so far this year in the 2 games that he's played and been available to play against them, averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds, and a block in each of those games while shooting 85% from the field in his last 10 games overall, averaging over 15 points per game, over 8 rebounds, and nearly 3 blocks per contest. Of course, he had 27 and 12 just 2 weeks ago in New Orleans. You mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of having to make sure that these guys are not fouling, especially with the center rotation as depleted as it is. Daniel Gafford, as of late, has been playing really well and did so, especially a couple weeks ago. They'll need more of that production tonight against this Pelicans team, who isn't necessarily a great rebounding team.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Daniel Gafford do it, and again, do it again. This is functionally the same team. Zion Williamson being back does not change the advantages that I see Daniel Gafford having against this team, having against a rookie big man and Yves Missi. Sorry, Tanner. Nice player, but
Tanner's putting in work.
I didn't even hear it. I zoned out. So
no, he didn't. Tanner wasn't even.
He didn't hear the Yves Missi slander. That's what he's saying.
I'll go back and listen.
Nice little player, but yeah, Daniel Gafford has an advantage, and he should take advantage of it once again. I mean, this is a really important player for Dallas during the stretch, and there's some rough games coming up against Cleveland and Boston. I don't know what Dallas is going to do.
We're not talking about them tonight. We ain't got to worry about them tonight.
Yeah. This is before we get to some games that have obvious matchup worries with Daniel Gafford. I would like to see Daniel Gafford do his thing against a team that he should be able to dominate, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, according to you and Austin Guerrilla, this is one of those Gafford line games against a team that he should go 99 shack on, as our guy Austin said yesterday on the podcast. By the way, fun show that we had yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to see that, you can go back and check that out wherever you get your podcast for free for the DLLS Mavs podcast, and, of course, right here on YouTube as well. As we had DLLS Mavs and Friends Day yesterday on the show. And, yes, Ardell, the knife is alive, Miles, and he is back and ready to play. But Daniel Gafford, the man in the middle tonight, looking to have yet another big game, and will need to do so, as he's not only going to be leading them offensively in terms of what he does in the paint, but also being the defensive anchor for this team on that side of the floor. Let's get to our X Factors for tonight's game, as you can let us know in the chat as well what some of your X Factors need to be for tonight's game. Also, like and comment on the video as well while you're here. Help us defeat the algorithm. It needs to be defeated. Tanner, you are right about that when it comes to us here at DLLS Sports. Let's get to X Factor number 1 for tonight's game, Tim, and that is protect the basketball. It's a theme that we've been talking about for this team throughout the course of the year, where the turnovers have been up a little bit for this team, but at the same time, 2 weeks ago against the Pelicans, they had 17 turnovers, which led to 24 points for the Pelicans in that game. Aside from the goaltend that wasn't called, that was something that the Mavericks have got to make sure that they clean up in tonight's game. This is a team in the Pelicans that is 7th in the NBA in terms of steals per game. They like to get after and take the ball away from you. Kyrie Irving should help in that department, I would think. Of course, he didn't play in the game 2 weeks ago, but his ball handling should help that tonight in terms of hopefully limiting some of the turnover problem that they had the last time against the Pelicans.
Yeah, this is a team that in the past, like, you would see them have games of even like 8 or 9 turnovers in a game. And this season, you've sure seen the Mavericks opponent have games like that pretty often. But Dallas themselves have been very turnover heavy. They have not had fewer than 12 turnovers in a game since the game before Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like, at least minimum 12 turnovers in every game since Christmas Day. And really, they haven't had single digits. The last time they had 9 turnovers, November 4th. They've only had fewer than double digits twice this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And again, like, 10, 11, 12 turnovers in a game that's a pretty good night. That's just a touch above average. But Dallas has not been. They're not having outliers. Like, they're having outliers only in one direction. They're only having big turnover games, and then they're about league average. It'd be great to see a game, just a hyper efficient game. And some of it is the players. Like, when you entrust players like PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford and Kyrie's always going to try some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Spencer Dinwiddie been doing a lot of ball handling as well for this team.
Exactly. Like, this is the team that Dallas built to an extent. They accepted a little bit of, turnover problems, especially because, you have to get the team ready to play against a team like Boston, where, you do have to have players who you trust to make plays on their own, even if they are, even if the process of getting to the postseason, there's going to be games where those guys turn it over a little bit as they figure out what they are capable of doing within the confines of this Mavericks offense. But yes, reducing turnovers is always a good thing, and it'd be great if Dallas can do it against a team like this. It's not like they have Herb Jones. Don't let Jose Alvarado go crazy on you. But
pesky little defender, yeah.
But yeah, Kyrie Irving definitely I think is where it starts. Obviously, once Luka gets back, that's going to be the biggest thing. He is the one of the more ball secure players in the NBA. His turnovers are his own making rather than anything the defense can usually do to affect him. But yeah.
And you're right, Luke. The biggest difference with Luka in terms of the ball handling, him not being there, other guys have had to handle the ball, and at times it's been a little wonky in terms of the handling of the basketball and some of the decisions made with the ball in their hands. One of the numbers that I appreciated from the game on Monday against the Wizards, the Mavericks had 39 assists in that win against Washington, sharing the basketball, moving it around. When the ball moves, this team, and the ball touches the paint, things happen. Speaking of the paint, let's get to X Factor number 2, which is, for me, you got to punish the Pelicans in the paint. The Mavericks had 60 of their 116 points on Monday, in the game 2 weeks ago against the Pelicans. 60 of the 116 that they scored in that game came inside the paint. PG Washington had 14 rebounds in that game. We talked about Daniel Gafford in the game that he had with the 27 points and 12 rebounds that he had in that game a couple of weeks ago as well. The Pelicans are one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. You've got to be able to dominate the paint and take advantage of that opportunity against a team that doesn't rebound the ball well. Hopefully that means good things, and for the Mavericks to team rebound as well. When this team collectively crashes the glass, Jason Kidd has praised and lauded this team about their abilities to do that when they've done it well. You'll need to do some of that tonight to keep the Pelicans off the boards. And finally, for me, Tim, I think you'll agree with this one too. You got to light it up from downtown. Bobby Carell has talked about it. Tim has talked about it. We've talked about it quite a bit, especially without Luka Doncic on the floor. Find a way to light it up from three. The Mavericks did that on Monday. They knocked down 23 pointers in the win against Washington. Klay Thompson knocking down 7 of those in the first quarter alone, tying a Mavericks record with Luka Doncic for most three-pointers made in a quarter, in any quarter in a game. The Mavericks made just 12 threes in their loss 2 weeks ago to the New Orleans Pelicans. Tim, I think the number for me tonight is 17. If you make at least 17 threes tonight, I think you're going to give yourself a great chance to win against this Pelican squad.
Yeah, I mean, just going through Dallas's box scores of late. 20 made threes, win. 8 made threes, loss. 14 made threes, win. 8 made threes, loss. 6 made threes, loss. 16 made threes, win. 12 made threes, loss. 9, loss. 12, loss. 10, win. 18, win.
Yeah.
There is a correlation there.
Sure.
There's a couple. There's a 12 make loss and a
12 make win
and a 12 make win,
yeah.
a 10 make win. But the 10 make win was against Portland. If this team, I'd set it lower than 17. I'd say 14-3 should get you there.
Okay.
Maybe 15. Maybe 15. But that's, a lot of this is like, we know Kyrie is like, the made 3-pointers indicates the role players played well and did their job. And it's not like Kyrie is going to hit, 11 threes and then the role players are going to combine for 4.
He's not going to go full Dylan Brooks and hit 10 threes in a game like he did the other night against Boston.
Yeah, just very unlikely. So more threes is better. Make sure you get good quality shots. I know the team emphasizes driving kicks, redrives, stuff like that. There's a time and place for that. Also, if you're a good 3-point shooter, just take an open shot. That's all. Also okay.
Get the threes up against this New Orleans Pelicans team to give yourself a chance to win tonight's game. That'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. We'll be back 15 minutes after the game is over with. Tim Cato, our Mavericks beat writer, plus we'll be joined in studio by our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, as well, for his thoughts and perspective on tonight's game. And we really appreciate all of you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure that you like the video on the way out the door. Come back with us 15 minutes after the game is over with as the Mavericks take on the Pelicans. Again, if you're going to be watching the game, you can watch it on WFAA Channel 8 or KFAA Channel 29 as well. Again, really appreciate you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. For Tim Cato, I'm Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you 15 minutes after the Pelicans take on your Dallas Mavericks in the Big Easy. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.